So for those I haven't gotten a chance to meet in person yet, I'm pretty sure I've traded emails or had phone calls with pretty much everybody. But I'm Matt. I run the program. I'm also one of the owners at Playball USA. We started the Dodgers. This will be year 6, going full time. So starting to establish an identity a little bit here. Mark, that's a legit setup. Like what you got going on there. Excited to get this group going. We are starting something a little bit new at this age level this year, which actually after we had made the decision to do what we're going to do at this age level, and I'll explain that to you guys in a little bit, we actually jumped in and we're doing it to an even larger degree with the 12U group. And so I'll explain to you guys what we have going on with that as we get through our presentation here. So to make sure that I don't keep you guys super long, let's get through this little PowerPoint that I've got. We'll knock some stuff out that way, and then I'll open it up to questions at the end here. So let me share my screen. Parents, for the new families, this is typically the time of year we get everybody together at the facility, give everybody a chance to meet each other, which I'm actually pretty upset we're not able to do that. I just figure that with everything going on, this is kind of the safe way to play it. So obviously not doing our typical game plan that we would normally do, but hopefully we'll be able to get together sooner rather than later and start getting to know each other a little bit. All right, so welcoming everyone to the program, our new families. Welcome back to our returning families. This is our current list of all the players that we have at 13U. For returning families that maybe haven't heard yet, we have brought Sal on a full-time basis. Believe that he earned that this year, as well as Nada. So those two guys are working for me at the facility full-time. So be able to see a lot more of them there, in addition to them coaching both the 13U teams that we're going to have. And then we're actually bringing on Jacob, who you guys may or may not have crossed paths with this year. I know he definitely helped out with the team a little bit. I'm going to bring him in on more of an administrative role, and I'll explain to you guys why, because we're going to need some communication help, and he does a good job with that as we start to unfold for you guys what our new game plan is for the season. For our new families, for our returning families, nothing changes here. New families, we love multi-sport athletes. We want to promote multi-sport athletes. So when we're in our off-season program, if players have to miss for other sports, we're completely understanding of that. Just please let myself and the coaches know. And we are going to add one new accountability factor in, and I'll get to that on another slide in a little bit here. Accountability, both for parents and players, is going to be kind of my new theme of this year, so you guys are going to hear me talk a lot about that. But we're all about players playing as many sports as they can, so we're encouraging that. In season, though, and part of the accountability, this is where that comes into play. We expect full attendance. If you're committed to the Dodgers program, when we're in baseball season, we expect full commitment. I'll be honest, I was disappointed this year. I know COVID affected some things, and that part I'm understanding about. But there was a lot more people this year that missed for other things that I didn't think was a legitimate reason to miss baseball games. And that's disappointing to me. I want committed families. We want baseball families that want to be a part of this. This is not recreational baseball. If our goal really is to develop these guys and get them ready for high school, then they need to put it first when it's baseball season. I'm very reasonable for the new families. As you get to know me, I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to talking about reasons that the boys have to miss, or if something else comes up, or family obligations. I'm realistic. I'm not crazy. But one thing that does bother me is that when we're in season, we need the same commitment that families give to other sports during the off season. So hopefully it's never an issue, but I just want to make sure that I say that clearly so that we're all on the same page there. Normally, this is the night when we would go through the parent code of conduct. I'm not going to do that over a screen. I think that's a little tacky. But I will send that to you guys so that you can review it, sign it, get it back to us. Because even though we haven't had to enforce anything in that code of conduct for a few years now, I think it's just a good way to lay out kind of what our expectations are for parents and their behavior, both on the field and off the field. And then we'll go through a player code of conduct with the boys once we get into practice here in a couple weeks. This is kind of that point where, you see that bold statement at the bottom of this slide. I'm going to make kind of a joke about it, but it is, in a way, it's a kind of serious thing. This is a program and therefore bigger than any one team alone. Nothing is done without the management team's awareness. And the reason I put that in there, in my kind of joking story, is that a few years ago we had a team fly down to Myrtle Beach, one of our 14U teams. and they took it upon themselves as a group of parents to do an alternate jersey for that tournament, which on the surface is a cool thing. I actually, once I found out about it, would have been all on board. But I found out about it through a social media post, and they didn't let me know they were doing it. And the negative side of that is that I could have actually gotten them better pricing on the jersey that they had made. But what I didn't like about it was it wasn't even our colors, and it wasn't even our logo. It was pretty bad looking, and it was kind of embarrassing. And so I'm all for doing stuff like that on a team by team basis. Just let us know so that we can use our resources to help you guys out with that. And then we can make sure that it's done the right way and it represents the program. So kind of a one-off story, but I make sure every year that I hit on that just so that everyone's on the same page there. Our off-season program at 13U takes a little bit of a step up from 12U for the returning parents. So we go 44 total workouts this year in the wintertime. 32 of those are team practices. 12 of those are the position-specific workouts that we do. For our new parents, what we do once a week starting in January is we put the boys into position groups: middle infield, corner infield, outfield, and catcher. And so we actually pick the position group that we want those boys to train with. They go into a smaller group breakout with, it'll be the 13 and 14U boys combined this year. So the middle infielders will go and they'll work with a middle infield specific coach for an hour a week with the 13-year-old or with the 13 and 14-year-old middle infielders. We started doing this 2 years ago just as a way to acclimate the boys a little bit to their actual primary position. Whereas in a practice team setting, we might not be able to hit on more of those detail-oriented things. So I thought it was important to put these guys with coaches that specify that in those areas. And actually the guys that we had doing it last year, of the 4 groups, 1 was a current pro player. The other 3 were all college coaches. So we're putting these guys with legit coaches. And I think that's one of the cool things that separates us from some other programs. So happy to continue doing that this year. And actually we're going to be breaking those groups up a little bit so it won't be quite as large this year, so the boys will get an even better opportunity there. We'll have 3 coaches at all the team practices. One part of joining the program, I think one of the biggest benefits of joining the program is the membership to the facility. And, I kind of stop at this point when we do these talks every year because, it's kind of hard to believe, but the membership really goes underutilized by a lot of families. So when I say use it, abuse it, we want the boys there as much as possible. For those that maybe haven't heard, we did open up a second facility, and that's where the boys will utilize the membership. It's the old ballpark Mount Prospect space over on Central Road. So we're happy to give the boys an opportunity to have even more space and more access to the facility. That's something that, we think is only going to help us grow as the program continues to grow. It's just going to allow our boys to make sure that they always have access to the cages. So we want them there. And something that I learned this year more than ever, based on the feedback that we're getting, is that the families that are the most happy with our program are the ones that take advantage of all the things that we have to offer. We have the relationship that we have with Marucci, and I'll hit on that in a little bit, in terms of uniforms and the equipment discount that the families get. We have the membership, everything that we allow our families access to. It seems that the families that understand what's really at their hands and what they're able to do with the investment that you guys make are the happy ones. It's the ones that don't take advantage of everything that don't understand the value. And so I want to continue to make sure that we get you guys to understand what you guys have access to so you can take advantage of that. And so you do feel like you're getting value out of the program. I think the membership is probably the biggest one. The boys can literally go hit every single day. And I know that we're not going to have 12 and 13-year-old boys going to the facility every day, but if they want to, they can. And actually, as we get going here, we're going to start to mandate a little bit of cage time more than we have in the past. So I'll hit on that when I get to that slide as well, because that's part of the new accountability thing that we're going to talk about. Going into other facility stuff, the discount. Part of that membership is 20% discount on anything else that you guys choose to do at the facility. New families, one thing you'll get to know about me really quick is I really genuinely understand the investment that you make when you play for one of our teams. I know for a lot of families, it is a lot of money. And so I'm not a pushy salesman. I'm never going to make it a situation where you feel obligated to spend more than you already are. That's why we do the membership. But for those that do have the opportunity or want to do additional lessons, we do have that available to our players. With obviously Sal and Nada, who the boys will be spending a lot of time with. They're both full time for me now, meaning they're available for lessons every day. But we do have other guys on staff as well, current college coaches, and actually a current pro player, guys that we can pair the boys up with if indeed you guys want to do that. I'm not going to push it though. I don't push it. This is kind of where I take my play ball hat off and my Dodgers hat off, and I try to separate them into two different things because I recognize that this is already an investment. So I don't like to push extra costs on anybody. But just know that it's there if you choose to do it. Another thing that we're going to add in this year, and it will not be mandatory, but we will make it available, is Blast Baseball, which is a bat sensor. It's similar to what we do with HitTrax, but it's more of a personal evaluation, and it tracks all the swings that the boys take as a sensor on their bat. I'm going to send you guys more details on that. We just finalized a new partnership with them this week. That's why we're not going to make it mandatory for this year, but we may build it in for next year. I'll talk about that too. That's on my accountability slide because that does allow me and the other coaches to track all the swings the boys are taking when they're using it. To me, I'll be very blunt with this one. It bugs me when people tell me how much work they put in and how many times they're in the facility when I know for a fact that they're not. And believe it or not, that happens. I mean, you can't pull a fast one on us. Chris, myself, now Nada and Sal, we're at the facility 7 days a week. And so I laugh to myself when someone tells me, well, we've been at the facility 5 times this week. Well, no, you haven't. We know you haven't. And so there's no reason to lie to us. What the Blast sensor does for me is I don't even have to be in the building to know how many swings a kid might be getting in a week, because that sensor is going to take that information and it's going to relay it to the coaches hub that we have where we can track all of our players' data externally, which I'm pretty excited about. That also helps too if, and I really hope this isn't the case, if we get into a COVID situation, it's going to allow us to be more hands-on with the players when they're putting in their work at home. So if we do get to that point where we're mandated to shut down, which let's knock on wood, let's hope that doesn't happen, it'll allow us to do a little bit more and be more productive when the boys are doing stuff at home. So definitely another opportunity we're excited about there. Just so that we're clear, I mentioned that we have 2 locations now. The team practices will all be at the same location they were at last year. We're going to use the Business Center Drive location for all of our team activities. And then private lessons and the memberships will be utilized over at the location on Central Road. So just making sure that you guys don't show up to the wrong place for the first practice. Some philosophy stuff for the new families. First and foremost, number one to me is the most important thing. We're going to teach these boys to work hard. That it starts and stops there as far as I'm concerned. I was telling the families that were on the meeting yesterday that the Indians coaches, who was the high school program that we're affiliated with, that we feed into, that I actually used to help run, and I coached in that program before I started the Dodgers. The guy that runs that program, Mike Puglisi, he came to me this year and he said, you know what, regardless of talent, and there's a mix, we send them A players, we send them B players. But he said, regardless of talent, we can tell Dodgers the minute they show up to tryouts. It's just how they carry themselves. It's how hard they work at practice. And to me, knowing that a high school coach is coming and saying that to me, unsolicited, means that we're doing our job. If I know that he's saying that, then I know that when they go to their freshman tryouts at their high school, that their high school coaches are going to notice that. And to me, that's really the biggest thing that we can teach these guys, is how to take the thing, not only the baseball things that we're showing them, but their habits and how they go about it. If they take that on to the next level, then I couldn't be more proud. And I hope as a parent you would recognize that too. On the flip side of it, we're still going to also have fun. I think those of you that know me well know that when I get out in the field, I'm having as much a blast as anybody. I'm running around with the kids with a smile on my face, enjoying every minute of it, because that's why I still do this. And I need them to know that. And they need to learn how to do it in a way that, they go about it seriously, but they can still do it with a smile on their face. I think they need to know that, we put in all this work and we go through a pretty strenuous off season, but it's still got to be about having fun. And it's got to be about going out there and competing. And that's, as much as I want to make sure that they learn how to work hard, I need to make sure that they can also take it lightly in a way where they don't overdo it and put too much burden on themselves. So I guess that kind of goes into what number 4 is all about there, is how do we handle the physical part of it? How do we handle the mental part of it? We want to make sure even at a young age that they're starting to understand how to do that. So that all plays into our training as well. And then number 5 is a new one this year. I've mentioned accountability a couple times now. I think one thing that is really, I'll admit that I typically get set in my ways. I'll do things the same way for a couple of years until I have a reason to change it. And the last couple of years has been building up some frustration on not only my part, but on the other coaches in terms of accountability and players, and not only players, but their parents being complacent with where they're placed. And, getting the whole A and B thing, I'll admit, is driving me nuts. And that's kind of why we're going to go the route we're going to go. And I'll explain that in the next slide. But at this point, I think unless fair playing time is completely warranted by the fact that all the boys are putting in the same effort and everyone's playing at the same level, we're going to start to get away from that to a certain degree. We're not, by no means am I saying we're going to go into a win at all cost mode. But these guys got to understand that not everything's going to be fair, especially in high school. We're going to be a little more lenient. The more you guys, for the new parents, the more you get to know me, you'll understand that I look at things from a lot of different angles, and I'm very realistic. I'm not trying to say that any of our boys are ever going to show up to a field and sit for 7 innings. That's never going to happen. But it is important, if we're talking about being developmentally based, that they understand that part of development is learning how to work hard and have motivation, and to a certain degree, some internal motivation. And if they're given every opportunity versus having to earn it, then they're not going to understand what that accountability is. And so we've found a couple new ways that we're going to try to put that in place. And so one of those things, and this is probably the easier one, is that we're going to make cage time mandatory once a week. I don't think that's too much to ask. So once a week, the boys are going to be required to put 30 minutes in the cage. A good question a parent had yesterday was, well, if they do a lesson, does that count? Yes. If they're in there doing a lesson with one of the instructors, yes, we'll count that. And we're actually going to track this at the front desk. Heidi, who, if you have not met her yet, she is our friendly front desk, newly appointed customer service manager. She's full-time now as well. So for those of you that know Heidi, she is with us on an everyday basis. And she'll have a binder up at the front desk. And so then when you guys go in with the boys, you'll stop at the front desk, you'll check off your box for that week. If for whatever reason, and again, I'm realistic, if you're not able to get in there 1 week, then we're just going to roll that to the next week. But if you start to miss consecutive weeks, then we're going to have a conversation about suspending your son from team practices. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. In a few cases it may, based on how things went last year. Having people completely miss practice time and time again, it's starting to wear on me. And it's wearing on me because of how it affects the other families. And so now if we're talking about how do we hold people accountable, we have to put measures like this in place. And quite honestly, I think if asking you to come in for 30 minutes once a week is too much, then a program like ours probably isn't something that you want to invest in. I think that's pretty bare bones to me. Showing up to one team practice and putting 30 minutes in the cage, if you're participating in a travel sport, I think that's a very realistic ask. If you do miss a practice, and again, if it's for another sport, I understand that. I encourage it. We're just going to tack on another 30 minutes in the cage to make up for the time that they missed. I think that's reasonable. So far, all the parents have been very open to that. So let's hope that there's no issues there. Let's all make sure that the boys are getting their time in on their own in an outside of practice setting, and then we're going to be in a much better place. I mentioned the Blast Baseball, and the data tracking by the coaching staff to me is a great piece of that. Not only is it going to give your son and yourselves to a certain degree some really good information with the swings that they're putting in when they come in the cage, but like I said, we as coaches then get the back end feature of being able to also track that information, because the sensor will then upload all their information to our call the hub. I don't know exactly what term they use, but we get a login and we get a profile to be able to access all of our players' information. So that's, in terms of accountability, for me, that's a big one. And then I added this part on the bottom because I think we talk about player accountability. Parent accountability is a big part too. So I put, it is your responsibility as a parent to make sure your son is not put in a position of being unprepared to help his teammates. That's big. And especially at this age, 13, 14, even, the 10, 11, 12-year-olds. These boys can't drive. A lot of them can't get themselves to practice. If your son is committed to a travel sport, I'm just going to say it very straightforward. It's your responsibility as a parent to make sure that they're putting in the time, not just for their own development, but to make sure that they're doing their part for their teammates. I think we need to start being fair and more fair when it comes to that. And so that has led us to unfolding our new in-season program. Like I said, the original plan was to start it with you guys. We're also going to do this at 12 years old. With you guys, we're going to do it with 2 teams. I think it's very manageable, and I'm excited to try it out. We're actually doing it with 3 teams at the 12-year-old age level, so a little bit more of maybe a bumpy road ahead of me just in terms of making sure we lay it out the right way the first time. But myself and the coaches have sat down and put together a really nice game plan, and we're excited to do this, and I'll explain why. We are going to have set rosters for the league, and that we can't get away from. The league makes us send in rosters before we start playing. Those are locked in. When we get to the tournaments, however, we're going to have fluid rosters, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. That's going to be a little different than not only things that we've done in the past, but I'm pretty sure that there's no youth travel programs in the area that I'm aware of that have tried this before. So kind of, us thinking a little bit differently outside the box, but based on a lot of the results that we had this year, I think it's a good way to approach it. But at the end of the day, everyone else is going to play the same amount of baseball. Everyone's going to get the same amount of games, tournaments. That's all going to wash out, and I'll explain how once we get there. We will continue to use Heritage Park. I am currently in the process of locating new fields that aren't as expensive as Heritage, because I'll be honest, with the budget that we work with, without raising the price for you guys, to have multiple practices over at Heritage is probably not doable, and that's why I am searching for other options for us to use as practice fields. One good thing about the program is that we have a lot of people from a lot of different areas. So if anybody does have access to local parks that allows private programs like us to utilize their fields, please let me know. I'm open to exploring all options, and a lot of times we get closed out by park districts because they don't want to be affiliated with private programs. But if there's a way for us to get into one that is open-minded to that, then we'd love to partner up with them. So again, just shoot me a side email on that if you know anybody, and I would appreciate that. All right, so the new in-season program. So we will kind of split it into 2 different segments, we'll call it. We'll have league play, which is going to be set rosters because we have to. But with the 21 players that we currently have, it'll be smaller rosters. So we'll roster 11 guys on one team and 10 guys on the other. And that's so that they get more reps in the league games. We have to align with the traditional A and B and, the way that it's always been, because that's just how the leagues run. And I'll explain that also. And I know my theme has been on the next slide, but I'll hit on that on the next slide of why that's bugging me too. But for tournament play, we're going to call it varsity and junior varsity. And I have developmental on there because, like I said, 12U is going to actually have 3 groups. But for this age level, we're going to look at it more like high school baseball. We're going to break it into varsity and JV. Varsity is going to go out with the intent to play to win. The tournaments that we play with those guys are probably going to be tournaments where we can bat 9 guys. We don't have to roster bat an entire order. And quite frankly, not everyone is going to play in those tournaments. We may play the best 9 all the time, and there's a reason for that. For the guys that don't get as much of an opportunity to play, and the reason we're having fluid rosters is that they will also play with the junior varsity on their tournaments. So they'll make up for time that way. So what we're trying to do here is give everybody accountability, right? And so when we talk about the varsity going out and playing to win, we're going to play 9 guys just like a traditional high school team would. We're going to have guys that go out and they may only pitch on the weekend. They might even get DH'd for. And so it'll be more of what they're going to expect in high school. And the reason we're doing this, quite frankly, to give our top teams a more competitive advantage that we didn't have this year. I think for the families that were with us at this age level, we had a talented team, but it was still tough to compete with some of the teams that were really out there playing to win. And so we want to give the guys at that level that have that opportunity a better shot to do that. But then we also want to make sure that the guys that are more on the junior varsity track, we're going to still try to go out and be competitive, but it's going to be more fair. So in those tournaments, everybody will bat. We'll probably have a little bit more moving around of positions because, again, that junior varsity player to me is somebody that maybe hasn't found that set position yet, where that varsity player is someone that, okay, maybe we know he's going to play high school shortstop. And so if that's the case, and we know that, and we do know this, that looking at the area and the guys that will filter into the high school, maybe that player is going to walk in and be the shortstop for that high school program for 4 years. Well, that means he deserves and needs to play shortstop as much as he can right now to be prepared for that. Whereas maybe a player on the junior varsity, maybe he's a player that hasn't fallen into a set position yet that may need to move around. And so putting him in that opportunity is going to give him the chance to do that. I'll go to the next slide so kind of paint a bigger picture here. So why did we decide to do this? Well, I already hit on this part. We want to better equip our teams to be competitive in tournaments. We want to give each type of player the developmental track that they need, and that's what we just talked about. One thing that really drove me nuts in the tryout process this year, and it was definitely more than any other year, was that we started losing players that were fixated on A and B. So I had some quality, good, talented players that would probably fit more into a traditional B track, that didn't want to play for us because I wouldn't promise them a spot on the A team. And to me, I'm not going to. I mean, the parents that know me know I'm a straight shooter. I'm not going to promise somebody a spot on an A team just to get them to join our program. If I don't think that player is of that caliber and I can't do that, then I'm not going to offer them a spot. But I don't like the traditional A and B, and the reason that I don't like that is because of the lack of motivation. For me, I think the top reason that we're doing this is because with the fluid rosters, we're going to make sure that all the guys that play on that top quote unquote varsity team understand that if they don't compete hard and they don't continue to work, then the guys that are on that junior varsity team are going to have an opportunity to come up and get put on that varsity level, and they might get an opportunity to get more playing time and see how they do. In the past where, you have we set our rosters in November, and from that day forward, you're either on the A team or you're on the B team. And what I don't like about that is, then we get that player who is satisfied with being named to an A team, and all of a sudden they go through winter training and they're missing half, 3/4 of the practices, and they're not developing. But at the end of the day, they still get to play on that quote unquote A team. Whereas we have guys that traditionally, year after year, will work their butts off on a B team and may earn an opportunity to play on that A team. But because of the system that's in place, all we can say to them is keep working hard, and maybe next year you're going to get a chance to move up to that team. Well, this completely flips that upside down. Now we can tell that B player who's working their butt off, listen, keep working hard, show us on the field that you're capable of doing this day in and day out, and now not next year, but next week you might get a chance to move up and play with that other team. I don't know of any other program that gives their guys those opportunities. So now we have the motivation of the guys that are on that top team currently have to continue working hard to make sure that they stay where they want to be, and they continue to get the playing time and the opportunities they deserve. But then it also gives that immediate carrot in front of the guys that are working on that junior varsity team to say, listen, this isn't BS. We're not blowing smoke. Work your butt off. Keep working hard. Show us the things that we tell you need to show us, and you're going to get a chance to play with them right now. And that's what every B player wants. I was a B player until high school. Up until high school, I was probably the shortest kid on every team I've ever played on, and all I wanted was that opportunity. I understand what those guys in that developmental track are going for, and if somebody told me, well, you don't have to wait till next year. You just keep working hard right now and show us what you can do, and we're going to give you a shot in a couple weeks here. To me, we're talking about motivation and accountability. That solves a lot of the issues that we've had the last few years that we couldn't figure out how to fix. I don't know how much movement there will be. That's all going to be dictated by the players and what they show us. But at least we're giving them realistic motivation, not only to keep their spot if they're in that top team, but also to earn a spot if they're not. And I think that is going to be a game changer for how our boys look at the whole, not only in-season work, but what we do in the off-season. I kind of tweaked our playing time philosophy slide for the parents that have been around. And I laugh looking at it. I'm sure you guys are looking at it. You see all the markings going, what is he doing? The top point stays the same. We're still all about development. And while we're doing this to give our teams more competitive edge, it's still about making sure they develop the right way, and actually giving them that internal motivation should help them develop even more. I did cross out, but I kept it on there. The defensive playing time will be equally mapped out. In my perfect world, that still happens because everybody's putting in the time and the effort that they're supposed to. If it were up to me, we would still continue to do that. And if the situation dictates it, we will still continue to do that. But if somebody hasn't earned the same opportunities as somebody else, then they're not going to get it. I have no problem saying that on our 14U team this year, there was one specific player that probably didn't deserve to play any innings anytime. Not only from a skill standpoint, but from an attitude standpoint as well. He showed up to 2 winter practices and then still expected that he was going to play the same amount of innings as everybody else. And quite frankly, because of what we promised last year, he kind of had to. And that's not fair to the rest of the team, because not only did he take the team down from a skill standpoint, he was making a lot of errors in the field. He also took that into the dugout with him and made it a pretty bad experience for some of the other players. And I don't want to see that happen anymore. And so we are going to continue to make sure all the boys are playing, and that's why the junior varsity track is the right move for the type of player that needs to play equal playing time. But we want to make sure that we have different methods in place to make sure that we're hitting on different things with different players that have different needs, I guess is the best way to put it. One thing that we are big on is earning opportunities. This all plays into that. If guys come to us and say, "Hey, coach, I've been playing second base, but I want to play shortstop." Well, we're going to tell them, "All right, that's great. We love that you're motivated to do that. Show us X, Y, and Z, and you're going to get that chance." And if they earn that opportunity by doing the things that we ask them to do, I put it down there in big red bold letters. Like, we want to give players an opportunity. This whole motivation and accountability push that we're going to have this year is not about pigeonholing kids into one position. It's not about saying, well, you're not good enough to do this or you're not good enough to do that. Honestly, it's the complete opposite. We want them to have an opportunity. I said it. I was a B team guy growing up until I hit a growth spurt. I want to give those kids chances, but they have to give our coaches a reason to give them a chance. I'll use an example from one of our younger ages this year. I had a parent come to me and say, "My son plays second base. He wants to play shortstop." And I personally said, "Okay, do X, Y, and Z, and he can have a chance." Well, 2 weeks later, he said, "Well, he still hasn't had a chance to play shortstop yet." I said, "Okay, well, has he done the things we asked?" And he said, "No, but the other player is struggling that's playing shortstop." I said, "Well, he doesn't get a chance based on the things the other player is not doing. He's going to get his opportunity by showing us the things he can do, because I'm not going to put him in a situation to make the same errors the other kid's playing. Work on the things he needs to work on so he earns the opportunity. He's not given the opportunity." And the parent understood it when it was put that way, and it worked out well in the end. And so we just want to make sure that the boys understand that as well. I'm going to open it up in a minute for questions because I'm sure there are some. And I know I tried to cover a lot there and a lot of new stuff in a quick amount of time. So really quick, before I open it up into questions, I'm going to hit on this stuff. We will talk about a destination event if you guys choose to travel out of town this year. We won't vote tonight, but we'll come up with some ideas. The website will be updated. I know for the returning parents, we launched that right before COVID last year, and then it went completely underutilized. I take the blame for that because with everything that was going on, it didn't give me the time to really learn how to use all the bells and whistles of the new website. But this year I'm going to. It's really user friendly for you guys. It'll be a great and easy way for you to go and get all the information you need. So I will keep that updated throughout this year. We won't have to worry about uniforms until January. We did have a little hiccup with the ordering of the practice gear. I apologize for that. We will have that worked out. The Marucci guys are coming back to do a fitting day the weekend of Martin Luther King weekend. That Sunday is January 16th, so we will have practice. They will be here. The boys will try on their uniforms. You guys will go home, do an order the same way that you did with the practice stuff. We'll have all the kinks worked out for that one, so we don't have to worry about that just yet. One of the things that the parents brought up yesterday in the meeting, and you guys will get an email about it tomorrow, is uniform numbers. All returning players can keep their number if they wish to. Just confirm that with me. All the new families, part of the email you'll be responding to is your top 3 choices for uniform number, and then I will divvy those up as they come in. All right, so I'm going to get off of my presentation, and I will unmute everybody. Let's see how that works. So you guys, if you have a question, either just go ahead and speak up or kind of give me a wave and I'll let you go. I'm sure there are questions. I'm happy to answer them. And then we can also talk destination event as well. So the floor is yours. I'm happy to answer whatever you guys got for me. Who's going to be the first one? There's no way it's that easy and nobody has a question.
Hey, Matt.
It's Joan Lewis.
What's up, Joan?
For destination, is it both teams? Is it one team? How does that work?
Great question. And so, yeah, obviously, we've always made it, if we're going to do a team trip, it's mandatory. With COVID, I think we need to leave it up to whether or not people are even comfortable doing a trip before we make that decision. So what I want to do, and what I've already talked to the other 2 teams that we met with yesterday, is first come to a conclusion who wants to travel, right? If you're not comfortable traveling, don't travel. I'm okay with that. This is the first year we're not making Cooperstown mandatory for the 12-year-olds. We've always said, we go to Cooperstown, you have to go if you play Dodgers. I don't feel right making it mandatory this year. So if you guys are not comfortable traveling, that's okay. And just let me know. We're not, our family's not in a position, and even the financial side of it. If your family's not in a position because of everything going on, and you don't obviously want to share that with the group, just let me know. I understand it. There's other families that have already communicated that to me. I want to do what's best for you guys. And that's why we vote on the destination trip. Cooperstown is obviously the one we don't vote on. That's where we're going to go. But 13U, we've gone to different places every year. And so, if it starts out with me just sending you guys some options of what we've done in the past and letting you guys kind of get a feel for it and go from there, I'd be happy to do that. And then we see who all wants to go, and then we make that decision. Is that fair?
Yeah, I just was wondering, say, one team has the whole team going, the other team has half of them. Would you pull kids from the other team to go so everyone can experience it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. And I think that's how we would handle it, is we would see who wants to go. We might get a situation where we don't even have enough people to go to one tournament. So it's hard for me to say until I know what you guys want to do as families. And again, you guys know me. I just want to do what's best for you guys. So I'm not going to ask any families to, if people aren't comfortable going to Myrtle Beach, then we're not going to go to Myrtle Beach. It's that simple. That's kind of how we always approach the out of town trip anyway. We always put it to a parent vote. And so, this is even, the COVID thing and all that even adds another element to it. So I want to be extra fair and make sure that we handle it the right way. So I guess I'll first start with, when I send out that email, is, respond back whether or not you want to. And then once we know who does, then we'll do the voting. Sorry, Dave, I'm just seeing your thing in the chat. I'll be honest with you, I won't say everyone will pitch, because that's certainly not the case. But I would say most guys, if they show us they can pitch, will get that opportunity. You can never have too much pitching, and I think we all know that. And so there's nothing wrong with putting in the work and showing us whether or not you can. For new families, you're going to get to know me really quick. If I don't think it's worth the investment, I'm going to tell you it's not worth the investment. I'm very fair. I don't want to see a family spend money that they shouldn't spend. So if I thought a kid was absolutely never, ever going to have a chance to pitch, I don't even know if I believe that would ever be the case. But I would at least be honest to say your money might be better invested somewhere else. So to be honest, Dave, I think that for you guys, I think he will pitch. So I think if you're asking specifically, I think that would be a good choice. But just, I guess, as a general for everybody, we're never going to turn down guys that can pitch, and we'd be foolish to. So kind of a simple answer there.
Matt, I have a quick question.
Yep.
It's Nikki.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi. And I kind of got on a few minutes late, so I don't know if you had mentioned, did you have a set the off-season practice schedule? I think Sunday's one day, right?
Sundays is. The others I don't have set yet. I will have them by next week for you guys. I'm thinking the position stuff for you guys will be Monday, and then your team practice will either be Tuesday or Thursday.
Okay, so it will be 3 days off the bat, or will it start?
No, that will start in January. So just initially in November, it's just Sundays.
Oh, just Sundays, November, and then January will be the 3 days.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, and then you'll also have like a time for the different age divisions.
Yep.
On Sundays.
Yep. I'll have it out to you guys by next week for sure.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any thoughts on the new way that we're going to handle tournaments? Good, bad, okay, confusing?
Will there be like, how much of a notice will there be?
So what I told the teams yesterday with the 12U is we're going to try to do every 2 weeks ahead of time. So initially we'll let everyone know based on, obviously with the league play, we'll know who the A and the B guys are. And so then once we build the tournaments around that, we'll have a general idea of who's going to be playing where. And then if there's going to be any movement, we'll try to give you guys 2 weeks notice. Nothing's going to be completely week to week. I understand you guys have family schedules. You have other kids that play other sports. This is not meant to overcomplicate your lives. That's why I'm bringing on Jacob to help me with some of the admin side of that, because I want to make it as easy on you guys as I can.
That'd be
Yeah.
for sure.
Trust me, I get it.
We understand it's complicated, but it definitely is appreciated. So
No, at the end of the day, I want to make it as little complication for you guys as possible. This is really, this is gonna be a lot more work for us, and I know you guys don't care about that. And I'm not saying that to get any type of pity. I'm open to it because it's what's best for the boys. I truly believe that. It's a unique way of making sure that we're putting them in the situations that we're supposed to be putting them in. So I'll take on that extra burden of work if it means that they get a better experience. And that goes for you guys as well. I get it. The communication is going to be tricky, but you guys know my emails. I go on way too long and I talk about way too much. So I'll probably continue to over communicate. I don't think that'll change. So, well, you'll get used to it. Cool. Done. Well, if anyone has any questions that you either don't want to ask in front of the group or you just think of later, shoot me an email.
Before we end, so the tournaments, is it all built into the payments, or?
Yeah, nothing's changing. There's going to be no extra fees. Obviously, the out of town trip, the cost for the travel part is additional, just like Cooperstown was.
Right.
But no, everyone's still going to play 5 events.
Everyone's in 5 tournaments no matter what.
Yep, absolutely. And in some cases, I'll be honest, some may play more than 5 because they may double dip with both groups.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Matt, on that note, as far as the destination thing, I would suggest if you're going to get a few ideas together or whatever, we're up for whatever, but maybe look at drivable tournaments as far as pricing goes. So, it doesn't have to be like an hour or two, but Kentucky. Even the Branson one was at 8 or 9 hours. The drive, that's probably doable, but.
What I had in mind, Corey, we were going to send our guys last year to Omaha. They were going to go try the College World Series thing. We've never done that. We were excited that it was going to be our first time sending the team out to that. Obviously, that didn't happen. Pretty disappointed. But we've sent 13U to Kentucky, Wisconsin. Our 13U typically tends not to go too far because of Cooperstown the year before. Now, you guys obviously didn't get to do the Cooperstown thing, and I'm sorry for that. So, if somebody wants to blow it out this year because you didn't do Cooperstown, I could see that. But also keep in mind that we usually do a pretty big one for 14U. We actually, because of the whole Marucci connection now, and for those that don't know, we actually got elevated. Not only are we part of the Founders Club, but we got granted access to a new level, which we can actually use Marucci in our name if we choose to now. So we're actually kind of at their highest level, and which is a really cool thing. I'll explain that more to the new families in an email, but I guess the good thing to note there for you guys is you get a really good discount on equipment. For families that are already on board, I think pretty much everyone's taking advantage of that with this group, and I encourage you guys to, because for the new families, you get 30% off of brand new, their latest stuff year round. And that's, I'm not making anything on that. I pass that discount on to you guys. I think that's one of the value adds that we give to the families in the program. It's honestly just for you. And, obviously it helps us on the uniform side, get a little bit better discounts, which also helps you guys out. So it's really good. And for those that got to meet Rafe when he was in town for the demo a couple weeks ago, he's a good dude. They're the right kind of people that we want to be working with. And so we're excited about that. So that new level is called the Franchise Club. So we went from Founders Club to Franchise Club. Essentially the same thing, just even more perks. So that's kind of cool. But we will be taking our 14U team down every year to the Marucci World Series in Baton Rouge. And that's an invite-only tournament for Founders Club members. And so that's only the 29 clubs in the whole country that are part of the Founders Club get to go to that. And so that'll be our new 14U destination event every year. So that's pretty cool. All right. Well, you guys are much easier than 12U parents, so I appreciate that. That was a 2.5-hour meeting yesterday. Seriously, though, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll be sending you guys an email with the blast stuff, so you have more information on that. They actually gave me an informational flyer to give you guys that kind of lays it out a little bit better than I did. I will send the info about the numbers, and I will send the info about the destination options. And then so you guys just get back to me, early next week, and then we'll start talking about where we're going to end up going from there. All right. Cool.
All right.
Um,
Thanks, Matt.
Yep, no problem. Sorry, I'm seeing one more question. Will communication be streamlined? Yes. So I think, going forward, we're going to need to do a better way of that. So yes, the simple answer is yes, but I don't have the final answer right now. So yes, I think that's Ingrid smiling right there. So yes, we will be on top of that. All right. Well, thanks everyone for jumping in. I will post a recording of this and send you guys the PowerPoint so you have it. And so everyone has all the information, but if you have questions, just let me know. All right. All right. Everyone have a great evening.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, you
Yep.
too. Bye-bye.